Welcome to reality. You're now on the Code of Mind channel. What year do you think you're really living in? And what do we need 85 kilometers of secret for? Let's go. Antiquity, Rome, the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, the Industrial Age, the Digital Era. Right now it's the year 2026 from the birth of Jesus Christ. You've seen that timeline strip in textbooks so many times that your brain automatically accepts it as a map of reality. But if you step back from that picture just a little, stop being a student, and switch into observer mode, a strange feeling appears. Something doesn't add up. Historians honestly admit it. We have holes in the sources that span hundreds of years. Entire eras rest on a couple of chronicles, rewritten centuries later. Dates are constantly being udachnani, moved, argued over. And now add one more layer to that. What's called alternative chronology, theories of stolen centuries, suspiciously uniform chronicles, strange jumps in the development of architecture and technology, and especially those places you're kept away from with the phrase, "There's nothing super important there." And then a logical question is born. Are you even sure you're living in the year 2026? Or did you simply agree with a number someone once wrote into a calendar? Now let's drop from the level of theory to the level of a very solid fact. The Vatican has its own archive. It used to be honestly called secretum, secret. Now the wording has been softened. The Apostolic Archive. The essence hasn't changed. Inside it, about 85 kilometers of shelves with documents, manuscripts, letters of popes, monarchs, bankers, and commanders, Inquisition reports, maps, chronicles, internal orders, documents an ordinary person has never seen. Access there, only by special permit, only for researchers with accreditation. And even they don't get to wander the halls. They have to request specific folders, and not just anyone's. The official version sounds like a sedative. It's simply the Church's historical heritage. Accounting records, correspondence, theology. We preserve everything carefully. And right here, a normal living person turns on a simple question. If it's really just papers, why this level of protection, filtering, and access control? If there were only donation lists, church instructions, theological disputes, why keep them under such secrecy for decades? Why not just digitize everything and put it into open access? Because a library on that scale isn't about nostalgia. It's a control panel for the past. Whoever controls the past decides who is eternal, who is legitimate, and who has the right to rule forever. Now we move to the calendar. There is the phantom time hypothesis. According to it, the period roughly between the 600s and the beginning of the 900s could have been artificially stretched. Some years, and even entire reigns, could have been added retroactively. The actual chronology of events is much closer to us than what's in the textbooks. According to one version, Emperor Otto III, Pope Sylvester II, and Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII were supposedly interested in adjusting the official year to a nice number around the 1000th year since the birth of Christ. Why? Living not in just some random year but at a sacred turning point of a millennium. That's a powerful symbol. To declare yourself a ruler in the year 1000 means writing yourself into a legendary scale. If you control not only territory but also the date on the calendar, you rewrite the entire history before you. There is another more esoteric argument people like to mention. In some old documents there appears a notation in the format I-500, I-600, where the letter E supposedly meant Jesus, from Jesus, and later it was turned into the digit 1, and I-500 began to be interpreted as the year 1500. Official science rejects this version, but as an example of how easily interpretations of dates can drift, it fits perfectly. The main point is this: the calendar is not a law of nature. It's not a constant like gravity. It's an agreement, one that can be changed if you have power. And if someone already changed it once to their advantage, you may never know it if you only sit inside the school version. Now let's look from another angle, through a theory that blew up the post-Soviet space, the new chronology of Fomenko and Nosovsky. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. What matters is what questions it raises. Roughly speaking, a significant part of the ancient world in the Middle Ages is shifted about 1,000 years closer. Many historical events are declared duplicates, the same plot rewritten under different names. Truly more or less reliable dating, according to this view, begins only around 1400–1600. Official academia, of course, reacts harshly. Pseudoscience, ignorance, manipulation of mass consciousness. But this idea didn't hook people for nothing. Why? Because it hits the main thing. We take history on trust. Most people have never compared ancient texts with the originals, never checked astronomical events mentioned in chronicles against the real sky of those eras, never unpacked where the whole BC AD system even came from. You were simply born into a ready-made timeline, and you swallowed it in childhood. And here's where both branches, the Western Phantom Centuries hypothesis and our new chronology, suddenly converge on one thing. The historical timeline may not be a photograph, it may be an edit. Some things were added, some duplicated, some stretched, some hidden. Okay, let's imagine for a second that part of the centuries really are phantom. Some periods are inflated, some events are not in their proper place. The question of who is secondary here matters far less than why, because this is about legitimacy of power. If you rule for 100 years, you're just part of a cycle. If you rule for 1,000, you become tradition. The longer your official history, the easier it is to say, it has always been this way. The easier it is to suppress any alternatives. The more terrifying it becomes for people to even think that the system can change. Religion as a support structure for time. The calendar from the birth of Christ is already a program by itself. It says, here is point zero. Before it was darkness or preparation, after it is our era, our dominance. If you control the starting point, meaning of history, interpretation of past catastrophes, you also control people's sense of the future, how much time they have left, toward what final goal they are supposedly moving, what they should fear. What if global collapses were not in prehistoric times, but much closer? What if major catastrophes, pole shifts, global epidemics, technological resets, repeat in cycles, and someone really doesn't want you to see that rhythm? Yes. Logically, you would scatter these events across millennia, feed them to you as myths and legends, and give you the feeling that this happens once in a million years, and definitely not in your lifetime. And now we move to the uncomfortable part. Stolen centuries sounds massive, but what's much more painful is the stolen years of your own life. Look at how the logic of phantom time shows up in your personal storyline. They tell you, first school, then university, then work, and then you'll finally live when you retire. But in reality, you spend decades dragging yourself through other people's scripts, convincing yourself that later you'll finally have time for yourself. You live in relationships where life has been gone for a long time, but you stay for years because we've been together so many years. It's already history. That's how it should be. You tolerate a job that dries you out because so many years have been invested. Where would I go at my age? Isn't that the same phantom time, just through a personal calendar? Years that existed, but you didn't live them. You just existed by inertia. They inserted phantom stages into your head. Someday later, not yet time, you have to endure more. And you agree to live as if you have 2,000 years ahead, while the body is built for a much shorter span. This is where the matrix switches on. If history can be rewritten, redrawn, recalculated, then time stops being sacred. It becomes code. Code that can be stretched by drawing extra centuries. It can be compressed by removing inconvenient events. It can be shifted by declaring one period, darkness, and another, renaissance. And then the question of whether we live in 2026 or 1026 becomes, in essence, philosophical. A much more important question is different. Whose time code do you personally live inside? Do you measure your life by other people's numbers and norms, or by your inner speed? Do you orient yourself by the formula, at this age it's already too late? Or by the question, is this alive in me right now or not? Do you keep believing the world has always been like this? Or do you allow the thought that your personal story could have been rewritten too? through trauma, beliefs imposed correct scripts. Because when you see that even years can be a fiction, it becomes very hard to keep seriously telling yourself, okay, I'll endure 5 more years, and then we'll see. Thanks for being here on the channel. See you in the next video. Bye, everyone.